Today, this is becoming a very interesting and a challenging topic for insurance altogether. Now, what is happening from the company standpoint is that in order to protect the individual, now the news was trying to cover saying that people have gone to the extent of protecting their individual property. For a manufacturing plant, you had ordered machinery worth of 10 crores. Good morning and welcome to the session 2 of Unit 3 in Principles and Practice of General Insurance, where we are going to speak about the miscellaneous insurance. Now, the miscellaneous insurance is a very important part of the general insurance, where we are going to talk about the different types of insurance other than the normal life insurance. Moving forward, the miscellaneous insurance refers to the contracts of insurance other than life. And that is where it is very important. Life, fire and marine is not a part of miscellaneous insurance. So please keep this in mind. When we talk about miscellaneous insurance, we are not talking about life insurance. We are not talking about fire insurance. Neither are we talking about marine insurance, but this is a branch of insurance which has come up very recently, where it is trying to talk about certain factors which is involved in terms of the recent origin. For example, it might be a mobile insurance. It could be something to do with, let's say, about your personal insurances, like you might have certain specific assets which you want to cover up. So those are the areas where the miscellaneous insurance comes into picture. Let's move forward and try to understand. The first one is the personal accident, which I would like to cover up as a part of the miscellaneous. Why? Because though it is also there in the non-miscellaneous, even in the personal insurance, this is coming in a very big way. Now, there are many times where you would see that an individual or a group of person, you could cover them against any personal accident or an illness factor altogether. This is being done by the General Insurance Corporation. The risk is insured in personal accident insurance is bodily injury resulting to solely or directly from the accident caused from a violent external visible means altogether. Now, what is happening from the company standpoint is that in order to protect the individual or to protect a group of people, we are coming up with a personal accident policy coverage, which will go and help people in terms of covering up the expenses that has occurred in terms of either a kind of injury or a kind of any other external factor that deals upon the body, so that has to be covered, that has to be taken fact altogether. So this is why I would say that General Insurance is a very important company in India which has come up with way above insurances that can protect the people, that can protect the system altogether and give a better coverage. Followed by the property insurance. This is getting very interesting in India. Why? Because last time there was a news that was trying to talk about how people are getting so possessive about their property, about their assets altogether. Now, the news was trying to cover saying that people have gone to the extent of protecting their individual property, including some of the collections that they have in their bathrooms, in their fittings, or in their swimming pool and all those factors. People have become very choosy in terms of governing the insurance factors altogether. Now, there cannot be anything else that is much more closer to your heart than your own home. It might be a 1-bedroom flat or it might be a 5-bedroom villa. But then when the property comes to you, it is very close. So what you try to do here is that you try to protect the property from any kind of destruction that comes in place. So that is where we are trying to understand the concept of this factor altogether. So this is where I would like to say that in case what we really need to understand, what we really need to govern here is that many times you will see that the factors of theft or the factors of, burglary or any kind of attack that is coming into the property, we don't have an answer for it. Many times people feel sorry that after putting in so much of time and effort in building up a property, somebody comes and just destroys it. That's going to be a very, very pathetic scenario altogether. But this is not going to be anymore. Why? Because with the property insurance coming in place, what we have tried to do is that we have tried to secure the value, the future value of asset, and in case of any loss or damage pertaining to your asset will be covered under the property insurance. So you need to be 100% thorough about this factor. If there is going to be any kind of damages, any kind of changes that are going to come into picture, the property insurance is always there to cover you, to take you forward. And this is one of the most interesting part of the insurance that is coming up, the theft insurance altogether. Now, you might have seen in movies or you might have seen in so many serials that how people are taking insurance against a specific property because the value of the property or the asset is a very huge amount altogether. So in that sense, what is happening is that people are now recognizing the value of asset at each and every place, and insurance companies are deriving a hefty amount of premium in order to protect those properties. Followed by, let's talk about the liability insurance. Just as a person can insure himself against the risk of death and personal injury or damage, determination, destruction of property, there can also be an insurance against the risk of incurring liability to the third parties. This is a very, very important concept that you need to know here. Now, many a times people believe that insurance is only like a future protection in terms of property, in terms of asset, fire, marine, or about motor insurance altogether. But what about a scenario where you believe that in the future you might be liable to pay somebody crores of rupees or huge amount of money which you never expected? Because business is all about risk, life is all about uncertainty. So when risk and uncertainty join hands together, you never know what is kept in future for you. So that is why we are trying to talk about the liability insurance, which becomes a very, very important factor for most of us today who are deciding to become future entrepreneurs. Now, many a times you might feel that you might become liable to people, you might become liable to the third parties altogether because of the uncertainty. So, in order to cover that scenario, we are bringing in the liability insurance. Now, what does this say is that the risk of liability arising out of the use of property comes under the category commonly known as liability insurance. So, by using certain property, by using an asset, there is going to be a liability created, there is going to be some sort of uncertainty created. We are covering it under the liability insurance. Now, under the liability insurance, we are making it very, very clear that sometimes there might be a chance because of using an asset, you are going to land into trouble. Now, let's say that for a manufacturing plant, you had ordered machinery worth of 10 crores. Now, the machinery starts working and usage of the machinery is being covered under the bank. Now, suddenly what happens is that the manufacturing is not being able to reach its target and the success factors are going downwards. Then automatically what is happening is that the usage of the asset is leading you to a liability and not to a profit scenario. So the third party or the banker or the people who have financed it for you might come forward and say that you need to repay back the value, you need to cover up for whatever you have done. In that case, you have to go back to a backup agency called as your liability insurance, which will be able to cover you up under any kind of scenario, under any kind of fractions altogether, so that you don't have to worry about the losses that are arising from the business. Now, moving forward, the motor vehicle insurance, though we have discussed about the motor vehicle insurance, today this is becoming a very, very interesting and a challenging topic for insurance altogether. Why? Because this is a combination of the insurance against the damage, its accessories, death or injury to the occupant of the vehicle, and also against the risk and liability of injury. Now, India has become a home ground for so many motor companies across the world who want to test their high-flying cars and the most fashionable vehicles on the roads. Now, if you look at the papers, you will be able to see the launch of SUVs or MUVs or the big vehicles or luxury sedan cars which have been flashed across the pages of newspaper every day. And what is really enticing about this factor is that people are never satisfied with one car or with one brand. They always feel that there is an opportunity to enhance their lifestyle, enhance their personality, bring in a better identity to themselves by purchasing those high-end cars. And the list is endless to this story. Now, what is happening here is that as you start increasing your purchasing behavior and you want to go in for those big vehicles, big brands that gets attached to your lifestyle, the question of insurance also comes behind you. So you need to have a good coverage, you need to have a better insurance that can protect your vehicle as well as you in case of accident or any untoward incident happening towards your vehicle. So that is where motor vehicle insurance becomes an interesting topic. One side, we are not just talking about the factors of damage, but we are also talking about the liability of injury. Though most of the cars and SUV promise you about this factor that you will not get into any injury or any damages because they have given you all sort of protection internally, but still we never know what can be kept in store for us. So that is why we need to build in a motor vehicle insurance factor that can protect us from external as well as the internal injury. Now, any single damage to the car, you are going to pay a huge amount, a lump sum amount to the car company in terms of getting it repaired. So that is where the external part, the coverage to the car as well as to the driver has to be in the best level possible that can actually help you in order to cover the entire activity. Followed by, let's talk about the professional liability insurance that is coming forward. Now, the professional liability insurance is something that needs to be looked out in a very, very clear-cut manner. Why? Because it is a term business owners, consultants should know and understand, because taking the necessary measures to protect you, your life is not money important. It is actually, it's more important. Why I would like to say, so what mistakes of insurance will actually cover is something like this. The insurance coverage that helps financially to protect an individual and that performs a professional duty and has an allegation brought against them. So for example, now when you are trying to talk about the financial protection of an individual or company that performs any kind of act and has got an allegation brought against them. So financial services, any kind of obligation that you are doing in the market today will definitely have a far-reaching impact in this business. And allegations can be brought from the legal or from the number of reasons. For at most reasons. One reason is that failing to meet the deadlines, overlooking on important factors, not communicating or forgetting to do something. Now, what is happening in the modern era is that business is all about getting into too much of expectations and commitments. There can be a scenario where the company has promised so many things, but they have not been able to meet the deadlines at any given point of time. There might be a scenario where the company has failed to repay back its EMI. There can be a scenario where the company has just forgotten about its payment systems. Or there can be a scenario where there is overwhelming losses coming into the picture company has tried to hide it, and there has been allegations coming in from the investors as well as from the outsiders. Now, what do you do under this situation? One side, you know that the business is not performing. That is a truth, or that's the life scenario that you are trying to talk about. But then your investors, your financials will not agree to this story because they want their money back. So what you need to look here is the professional liability factors that are arising out in this scenario. So unless and until you are able to cover yourself, you are able to cover those factors, you will not be able to recover back fast. So that's where we bring in this professional liability, which is trying to make you understand the risk that is involved in the business. It is not just about commitment, but it is also about the risk factors that are involved. Followed by, we also need to understand how the risk factors get governed. With this, I come to the end of the session. I hope and believe that this session was highly interesting, useful, and of a great resource. In the upcoming sessions, we will be talking more about the different factors of the insurance. With that, I come to the end of this particular session, and I thank everybody for joining me on this wonderful session today. Thank you.